with Republican senators about this issue? And would the president sign another bill, another COVID bill, without liability being addressed in that?
So I won't lay out the president's conditions or lack thereof for any upcoming legislation. He has mentioned it, that it's something that needs to be looked at closely, and he is looking at closely, and he is discussing with members of the Hill about that. But he has made clear in terms of a phase 4 that he wants to be slow as we approach a phase 4 and not rush forward with spending trillions more dollars of taxpayer money. We've done a lot so far, and he'll look at doing more in the future, and liability is definitely something that he's concerned about and working on. Yes. It's right back there.
Oh, one more on G7. Do you think that it would be appropriate to hold a G7 summit in the U.S. while ordinary citizens are still not allowed to travel freely, for example, from Europe?
Yeah, the president wants us to start reopening. Travel restrictions are something that, he wants to make sure American lives are protected before those are lifted. But that being said, I do think it's entirely appropriate, so does the president, to have a G7 here. America's reopening, the world's reopening. And what a show of strength and optimism to have all of the leaders of these countries come together at the White House and pursue business as usual and as we move forward through this pandemic. Is there anyone I haven't gotten to? I guess not. Okay, so we'll do a few more. Yeah, I had a brief answer to your question.
Kayleigh, Susan Rice wrote an op-ed yesterday in the New York Times that said that President Trump has kowtowed to President Xi, and also has said that called his response to the coronavirus deadly, classified as a deadly mishandling. What's the White House's response to that?
So you said that came from Susan Rice, was it? Okay, so first I would want to take a moment to address the president's response, because the president has had an extraordinary and early response to the coronavirus. I would note, Dr. Birx, the early work of President Trump, both with travel restrictions and quarantine, has bought us the time and space necessary to have this task force be very effective. Dr. Fauci saying that the president's response has been impressive. You can't imagine under any circumstance that anyone could be doing anything more. I can go through the actions. There's a detailed timeline out there of January 6th, Wuhan issuing a travel notice issued on Wuhan when there were 0 cases in the United States. The 17th, 0 reported U.S. cases, and there were public health entry screenings at major U.S. airports. Of course, the infamous travel restrictions that were called xenophobic by Democrats on January 31st. A lot of action in February on developing a test and making sure we were moving forward as speedily as possible. On that, keep in mind, in late February, Pelosi was saying, come to Chinatown, it's very safe, but the president had already taken very early action. And I know you brought up Susan Rice in that context, but I'm going to bring her up in another context that's equally as newsworthy, and that is the email that was declassified from Susan Rice on Inauguration Day, which is so peculiar. It set the scene. It's Inauguration Day. You're moving out of the White House. This is the most powerful building on planet Earth. Susan Rice is moving out, reflecting on her time here, and what is she doing? She's not packing her boxes. She's not being nostalgic about her time in the White House. What she's doing is writing an email where 3 times she writes that President Obama emphasized to conduct the investigation into Michael Flynn by the book, by the book, by the book. She writes it 3 times. As Shakespeare said, thou doth protest too much, Susan Rice. He didn't have the Susan Rice part in there, but I'll add that in. 2, she was asked specifically about the unmasking of Michael Flynn after she discussed it on January 5th in the Oval Office with Obama, after she wrote this email to herself on Inauguration Day. She was asked by a good journalist, Judy Woodruff, about this email, and about the unmasking of Michael Flynn, not the email, but the unmasking. She was asked specifically about Nunes's claim specifically. So let me clarify, it was Nunes's claim. And she said, I know nothing about this, so it was a lie. And then Susan Rice, since no one brought it up to me, I will bring it up to you. Her attorney said that this was the first opportunity 3 weeks after this Oval Office meeting that she had to write this email memorializing her Oval Office meeting with Barack Obama discussing Michael Flynn. It was her first opportunity, she said. Interesting, because she had an opportunity in those 3 weeks on January 10th to do a passing of the baton event with none other than Michael Flynn, where she praised him, wished him success, and talked about the great transition into the White House. And then on January 12th, she was able to participate in a story that published on that date in the lifestyle section of the Washington Post. So she never had time to write this email until Inauguration Day as she's rushing out the door, when in fact she had an opportunity to do all of those things. I'll leave that with you. Thank you for bringing up Susan Rice, not in the context that I wished, but for allowing me to share that with you.
Secretary Pompeo.